Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this breakout session. This morning, you'll have about half an hour of presentation, followed by about 10 minutes of question and answer, where there'll be a roaming microphone coming round so you can ask some questions. Your feedback today is much appreciated. As you'll notice, there's some sheets on your chair, which if you could fill in, we'll collect at the end, or alternatively, you can submit feedback on the Fujitsu Forum app. If you want to leave any other comments, then you can use Twitter and use the hashtag Fujitsu Forum to make any comments you wish. And if I could politely ask you to just put your phones on silent or switch them off to avoid distracting the presenter. I'd now like to hand over to Tom Roach, who's going to introduce your presenter for this morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you. It's good to get some feedback before we start. Thank you very much. My name's Tom Roach, and I lead Fujitsu's business in the manufacturing, utilities, and services sector. And 2 years ago, I had the pleasure of meeting Paul Richardson, who is the Managing Director of DHL's Specialist Services Division. And we started a conversation about what DHL does as an organisation. And I used to think they just delivered parcels. But as you'll discover, they do an awful lot more than that. And Paul and I spoke about, why aren't we doing more with DHL? We're the experts in running IT. Why don't we run your IT? And Paul said, happy to talk about that if we do everything else we do for you. And it's with great pleasure that I asked Paul to join me up here. Please do give him a very big round of applause to welcome him on stage, a man with over 30 years' experience.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for a great turnout. It's fantastic. I was a bit worried to start with. There's about 10 people in here. But yeah, thank you very much. So yeah, I'm delighted to be here to talk about our experience on how digitalization is being deployed in our organisation. And you're going to get to see some practical things we've been doing and how it's really been changing the services that we provide to our customers. So just a bit of introduction first, because if you was to look into our organisation, you'll probably say there's only one place called Specialist Services, and it's the place that I run. We started this business unit back in 2012 because we recognised that our market was changing and we needed to figure out where are other places we could play in terms of logistics and supply chain. So I was given the opportunity to take an elite team and go and start tackling markets that we've never played in before. I'm delighted to say since 2012, we've delivered over 1 billion of new business. So actually it's not an experiment anymore. So it's been a success. So what we're going to do is just to share with you how have we achieved that, particularly around the use of technology. But I'd like to start by talking around the markets that I play in. So effectively, I have UK and Ireland P&L responsibility for these sectors. But I also have a global team that take the products and services that we're developing and deploy them globally. So the first sector you'll see that we've entered is we call passenger gateway, where effectively you see there are two very dominant players in that market. We saw that as an opportunity for us to apply our supply chain skills in that market in terms of how you service airlines with a catering proposition above the wing. So today we actually design food menus. We effectively procure food. We work with the kitchens, and then we assemble that food on trays and deliver that to the aircraft. Equally, we also do the same in the rail market. I also run a division called Enviro Solutions, and more you're seeing companies that want to focus around the circular economy. I'm delighted to say we've got a fantastic business unit there that is doing exactly that, and I'll be sharing a case study of what we're doing in the circular economy as well. Technology, I have a global responsibility in technology, so although I have the tech sector in the UK, it's P&L, I sit on our global tech board, and I have sponsorship for a number of companies where my job is to coordinate globally our organisation in terms of their needs. And finally, we're going to be sharing with you a case study today in our public sector. So public sector in the UK is very big for us. Some of you probably know that we run a very big contract for the NHS where we do all of the procurement and supply chain management for the hospital trusts. And we've now expanded that now into the police force and also prisons. So I'll be sharing some of that with you as well. So, okay, 1 billion is a big number. So I thought I'll extract for you some examples of how we have effectively redefined our marketplace and how we are now providing different services. I won't go through all of these, but I thought I'd just pause for a bit and talk about a few of them. So Gatwick is a great example. Gatwick has been a win for us this year, where Gatwick have outsourced to us and awarded us all of their waste management across the airport. And we also provide for them a biomass boiler, so we take food waste from aircraft, category 1 food waste, and we turn that into a brown pulp and then burn that in a biomass boiler to create energy back that gets used in the airport. So we really are focusing around the circular economy, around how do you manage the overall waste around the airport. And you'll probably see there is a press release out from the Gatwick CEO talking about Gatwick being the first airport to really be focusing around the circular economy. The other thing is Virgin Trains. We're delighted to have entered into the rail market with Virgin Trains, and so we manage for Virgin their proposition on board in terms of the design of the food menu. Again, we procure the food, and we will then manage the assembly of that food, and we'll deliver that to the train and manage all the reverse cycle of that. The other extremes we have here is we also manage people in prisons. So we have over 1,000 prisoners that work for us, where we run workshops in prisons to help give prisoners skills that when they come out, they have a chance to get employment. But what it means is that we can get them doing meaningful work in prisons. And again, that not only is a good thing for the UK, but it is also a great opportunity for us to be able to process product in a very different way. And then, as you can see there are two very prominent airlines there. We are servicing something like 300 flights a day out of Heathrow, to give you some idea of scale, short haul, mid haul, and long haul. So it's quite a sizable business for us now. So there's some examples of what we're doing. I'm not going to talk about Met Police now, because that's one of our newest wins that went live this April, and we'll showcase for you what exactly we've achieved. I'd like to start with, okay, that's all very interesting, Paul, but what are you doing in digitalization? How are we applying digitalization or analytics that really make a difference for these marketplaces that we are entering into? So the one I want to share with you is what we've been doing for our airlines. And so we recognize very quickly, if we want to enter this market, we need to bring some very different thinking, real transformation of the way we do stuff. And it's very clear that within logistics and supply chain, we have vast amounts of data. And it's really, how do you use that data that makes a difference, not for our customer, but our customer's customer. So I hope you enjoy this video, and I'll talk a little bit about what's next after this.
Globally, the airline industry has a common problem of flying too much product around the world, because it's been difficult to predict what passengers will want to consume on which flight. So with little accurate data to rely on, the loading of food and beverage products onto flights is largely based upon passenger numbers rather than known demand. But to optimise onboard selling whilst improving customer service and significantly reducing costs, airlines need to stock flights with the right amount of the right products by flight profile. Working with the airline industry, DHL Supply Chain has created the groundbreaking Automated Stock Consumption (ASC) IT tool that helps airlines do just that on all their flights. By analysing what food and beverage products are returned untouched from every flight, the ASC tool can more accurately predict what's needed by route. And linked to DHL's renowned warehousing management capabilities, the combination enables airlines to avoid flying product unnecessarily around the world, helps to reduce procurement costs, fuel costs, and minimise waste returned for recycling. Produced initially for a leading global airline, the tool is completely transferable across many different businesses and scalable to any size of operation.
I think the key thing for us here is if you was to take something simple like weight that goes on a plane, you won't think that's significant, but for every kilo of weight you can take off an aircraft, and if you was to fly that kilo 24/7 all year, that would be about 3,000 euros of fuel. So if we can take product off the aircraft, we make a big difference. And that's exactly what this tour has been doing. We've been seeing up to 30% of product being taken off the aircraft because we can be much more scientific around the type of aircraft that's flying that day, the type of passenger that will be flying, and how we match up exactly what that travelling passenger will likely consume whilst on board. And I think that's the power of analytics that you can actually, and the reason why we can make such a difference is that we don't just analyse what goes on board, we effectively scan off everything from the aircraft. So every cross-on or anything that's not consumed, we know exactly what waste is occurring on that aircraft. So a real big difference for us, and a really exciting place where we are starting to work with Fujitsu, starting to use some of the RFID technology that will automate a lot more of what you saw on there. There's a lot of manual scanning we're doing. We want to automate a lot more of that and speed up exactly the processes that we perform. Okay, so what's next? The interesting thing for me now is that when we've looked at this data and what we're doing, it's very, very clear that if you start connecting that with lots of other source data that we have, that could be the customers' air vision systems and data, along with lots of stuff we know about our people and various other systems about the product that we're handling, and we then start using machine learning, we have a really interesting opportunity here to, again, take another leap in the way that we provide these services to our airlines. So a great example of this is that we have to carry lots of contingency because you can imagine there's lots of disruption that goes on with airlines, particularly when you've got bad weather conditions. So how do you use analytics and automated analytics to find better ways of managing that disruption? You know, you saw some pictures there or some videos there of the operation that we run. That's not a warehouse, that's a factory. You know, we are not only are we assembling that food in the way you saw, but in fact the whole reverse cycle itself is a huge process we have to manage. So how have we developed transformational growth? And why do we think digitalization is imperative for our transformation going forward? And how have we transformed this for our customers? And I'd like to use a case study now, another case study, to show you what we are doing as DHL. So this is our latest one. We had an opportunity to bid for a contract for the police services. And this was to provide for the police services effectively their body armor, and all of their uniforms. And that's not just the procurement and the buying of it, but also the design of the uniform and the body armor. I'm pleased to say we were successful, and it's the first time DHL has ever entered into this market. But again, our strength has been used in our core logistics skills and our ability to manage factory gate right the way through to the end user experience. I'm going to give you a bit of a deeper dive on this now, but I'm delighted to say this went live for us April this year. We are now live with 32,000 officers in the Met Police for London, and we are just about to onboard all the other forces, which will take a couple of years, but another 150,000 officers will come on stream in that 2-year period. Okay. So what do we actually do? So first thing you do, we manage a design council. So our job is to engage the best designers out there in terms of product. How do we actually think about the actual user of that uniform? How does it become something that makes a difference? So working with designers, we then work with the manufacturers. We have the responsibility to understand the provenance of where the raw materials are coming from. So we have to be able to have traceability of that. We also need to know what chemicals are being used within the process. We have agencies that help us manage this, but it's DHL's responsibility to have ownership of that. And although we outsource this to manufacturers, our job is to also understand the techniques those manufacturers are using to ensure that we're getting the best product for our customer, but equally in terms of making sure we can optimize the best price point through lots of new factory techniques now that make product development much quicker and easier. As you can imagine, the DHL brand is very precious to us, so we have to take huge responsibility around ethical trading, and we have, of course, very important agencies there that help us, but we have to take an active role in making sure that we have a handle on anything that could affect our customer, our brand, and the world globally. As you can imagine, we have a great global infrastructure of logistics, and so we have the opportunity there to really leverage our organisation to get the best price and service to service the market. And I think the thing in terms of the digitalisation of this, one of the things that's also been fantastic for us is that we have developed an online service that personalises that to each of the users. So for every officer, we will effectively have a website, and I'll show you a little video of it in a minute, that allows that officer to be able to go in and order their uniform, knowing that we know their entitlement, we know what their allowance is, so therefore we control the cost and we control the way in which we deploy that. So again, that before was very manual, now it's completely digitalized in terms of what we're doing. Of course, you can imagine DHL, we're a big organisation. We have great skills in fulfilment. In the UK alone, we are the second largest fulfilment company. If you can imagine, the high street alone, we service majority of the high street retail, and we're providing for them their order fulfilment on e-commerce. So we're taking all of that know-how and skill and making sure we're applying it into this market. And finally, it's about the end customer. We take a lot of care about the end user and how the end user feels about the services that we provide. And most importantly, when we talk about design and we talk about the product, we have workshops where we involve the officers to make sure we are listening to what how they feel about the uniforms that we provide or the body armor, and how we could improve on that product. So I think just a summary video there to just help you understand exactly the overall service that we're providing in this market.
For the thousands of police officers stationed across the UK, NUMS will provide a quick and easy way for them to order the equipment they need while accurately capturing costs and management information to help customers manage their business. The NUMS webshop is built on the most up-to-date e-commerce platform, enabling advanced configuration flexibility, so that super users can quickly and easily complete complex system customization and configuration, as opposed to expensive and time-consuming system developers. This means that changes such as new products, product updates and business rules can be added very quickly. Orders are placed using two different processes within the dynamic ordering platform. Push, which requires no interaction from the end user and is driven by business rules and HR data. And pull, which requires orders to be placed either by the end user or a super user. Push orders create an automatic order on a predetermined time or event trigger, such as promotion. An emailed pre-alert will enable the officer to check the products prior to dispatch, and if no further authorization is required, the order is then automatically processed for dispatch, having minimized administrative time and cost. If required, requisitions for multiple officers can be made on their behalf by a suitably authorized administrator. Ordering through the dynamic ordering platform couldn't be easier, as the system will be accessible through the National Police Procurement Hub. Alternatively, it can be directly accessed and configured to link to your EBP system. And returning items is also simple, with a list of the products due to be returned being included within the resealable package. These are collected at the same time as deliveries are made. Should any queries arise, our dedicated and security-cleared customer services team will be on hand to help or give advice. They have been equipped with full access to all relevant supply chain systems to enable quick access to information and resolve queries. They can be contacted through multiple channels. In summary, NUMS provides a reliable, secure, efficient and cost-effective self-service solution for individual officers and an automated efficient mechanism for all orders.
Okay. So, what's next? And some of what I'm about to show you is just in the lab, and it's just, effectively, I'm sure many have seen some of this in the past year or so, but we're very excited about what comes next. And our ambition is effectively to create a sustainable innovation that's really going to make a difference to the markets that we want to play in. Our partnership with people like Fujitsu and others is imperative to our success, and that's why we're delighted to be here to share with you what we're doing and the work that we are doing also with Fujitsu. So what's next? Well, lots of this has been talked about. We think wearable tech has got a fascinating opportunity to change lots of what we do. And already, as you can see, PwC have made an interesting statement there that's effectively 75 million wearable devices will permeate in the workplace by 2020. And already you are carrying lots of wearable tech, even your phones, measuring everything that you're doing in terms of how much walking you're doing. In fact, I've got one of the new Fitbit watches, and not only is it telling me how much I'm walking, but it's also heartbeat, it monitors my sleeping. So it's fascinating the way technology can give us great insights to what we are doing. And so for us, some of the trials we've been doing with Fujitsu, and I'll show you some results of this in a minute, is how do we actually take some of that wearable tech and put it into our drivers? And how can we learn about what goes on with our drivers when they're out on the road? How can we make our roads safer? How can we make our drivers' lives better? Also for me, and really exciting, is around what do we start thinking about putting in workwear? How can we actually use some of this really fascinating tech to learn more about what our employees are doing and how they can actually do their jobs more efficiently? So just focusing then on the Fujitsu trial that we've been doing with effectively they have a little clip that goes onto their ear, and it essentially measures the condition of that driver throughout his shift. And as you can see there, some of the results show that drivers 2 hours into the shift get quite drowsy, and that can be quite a high-risk time that they effectively could be involved in an accident. So if there is a way that we can use wearable tech to improve safety by putting alarms on that actually helps bring back their alertness to the road, that has to be a very good thing. And I have to say, we're very excited about this trial that we're doing, and we do think we're leading the way with Fujitsu in actually trying to make a difference on the roads around safety. So what's next? And okay, I suppose that's a bit far-fetched. That's Tom dressed up as Iron Man. I think that when you watch a lot of stuff on telly, you think, no, this just cannot be possible. But actually, yes, a lot of it can be. And I find this really fascinating. And although it's probably a few years away yet before we see this as a product that's live in our environment, it's a great thing to look at and be inspired about what can happen. So I thought one that would share with you is effectively radar technology, and how radar technology could in fact create what Tony Stark can achieve as Iron Man.
Radar is a technology which transmits a radio wave towards a target, and then the receiver of the radar intercepts the reflected energy from that target. The reason why we're able to interpret so much from this one radar signal is because of the full gesture recognition pipeline that we've built.
So that's interesting, but then how do you then apply that then into a process that means something?
Archetypes of controls, like a volume knob or a physical slider, a volume slider. Imagine a button between your thumb and your index finger, and the button's not there.
And that's going to be fascinating. You think about the smartphone, and the view is in the next 10 years, your smartphone won't be your smartphone. It will be all built into what you wear. And actually, you'll be answering your phone just by doing that, which is a bit scary.
Of human hands, and then use that to interact with wearables and Internet of Things and other computing devices.
I think the key thing is recognizing how such advances in technology can actually change the experience for the end user.
Where we have the hardware where we can sense these interactions and we can put them to work. We can explore how well they work and how well they might work in products.
So I hope you found that interesting, and I think it was a great way to say to you, this is why we as DHL feel that the workwear market is a very important one for us in logistics and supply chain, because of the opportunity that it gives us for the future to get greater control and visibility and transparency of what actually goes on. So let's go back to our emergency services. How could you use such technology? And I'm going to come back to the use of analytics again. If you think about biomonitoring and about, if you imagine 32,000 officers across London, how we could measure exactly what's going on real time, and how we will then be able to make instructions, or they could make instructions of how you move those officers to maybe react to a threat or a terrorist incident that's going on. And so automated response strategies can be achieved specifically by use of that sorts of technology. So again, I'm not going to spend much more time on this, but I just wanted to share with you, I'll give you a flavour of the sorts of things we're doing. We're very excited about that, and now I'm going to open for any questions.
Very much. If you have a question, if you'd like to raise your hand, and a microphone will come round to you. Should we come to the front first?
Or should I just ask the question?
Or just so everybody can hear it.
I'll try anyway.
See now. See now. Don't be shy.
Thanks very much. Paul, on slide 8, about the ethical audit format, SMETA was mentioned at the bottom. I've not come across that. Can you say a little bit more about that, please?
Well, that's, I mean, I'm not an expert at that. I've got teams that do that. So we have agencies that support us in making sure that we are applying the most ethical approach to. But, you know, I will say I'm not an expert in those agencies, but we know that we can't be experts in some of those complexities, and therefore that's why we go out and we partner with the industry best.
All right, thank you very much.
Can we just take the microphone down there?
Paul, good morning. I'm Simon Carter, Fujitsu. One of the challenges that we find with many customers on the sort of journey that you've talked about is it's quite a big investment to start this transformation. And I would imagine that DHL is a relatively low margin business end to end. So how did you justify to the CFO of DHL why you should invest in some of this digital transformation that you shared with us this morning?
Yeah, first of all, great question, because it's the biggest barrier I think every company faces, particularly when you want to try and optimize. I think we were very fortunate that we had a very good early win, and particularly that in the airline industry, where we were able to show that we could deliver transformation, and that transformation turned into good revenues and good profits. And I would like to say that the markets that we play in this space are very good profits. I won't tell you what they are, but they are not typically low margin business. But you are right. This is part of why we have to invest in effectively new markets, because we have a big aspiration that we want to increase our, I suppose, our profits, and that will be because we'll take a deeper reach into what we do for our customers.
Can we just move the microphone to this gentleman?
Hi, Paul. Question about the wearables and that you're using in the drivers. Did you have any challenges with the drivers in terms of a sort of big brother effect? You're going to be monitoring us all the time, and what's the sort of feedback on that?
Yeah, no, again, good question. I mean, as always, employees will be very threatened by that type of technology. And the key thing is about the engagement and actually make them part of the process of the trial. And in fact, we do have, video has been produced with the drivers being interviewed about their experience of being part of that trial. And actually, it's incredibly inspiring about how they were fascinated to learn a bit about them. So I think as long as you make them part of the process and that they are seeing the transparency of what it's producing, then actually we haven't had an issue. And drivers can be militant, as you know, but as always, it's about how you engage with them. And I think that engagement process has been hugely successful. And Val, I know, has been instrumental at Fujitsu helping us make that happen.
Morning, Paul. You mentioned about the IoT with the wearable for the drivers. That's obviously a safety benefit there. How do you see IoT actually helping the bottom line of DHL?
Well, I think, first of all, safety does, because if you think of the cost of a major accident, particularly, if you look at the fatality that happens and what's involved that we have to deal with that saves costs. If you can avoid having accidents, that in itself saves costs. I think it allows us to learn a bit more about how we make our drivers' lives better. So therefore, can they become more efficient at what they do, because we can actually structure their work shifts in a better way, in a better cycle that makes them feel healthier, better in what they do. Ultimately, you then get they are the ambassadors for us with our customers, and therefore the experience that they give to your customer is going to be far greater if they're feeling good at what they do.
Thank you.
And good morning, Franz-Josef Ferchenbach from Siemens Postal and Parcel. 2 questions. You mentioned artificial intelligence and self-learning machines. Could you imagine seeing this technology applied also in your sorting centers? Because the sorting centers are running, let's say, more or less hard-coded rules, yeah? If you have influences, the operators has to react. With self-learning machines, it could be more flexible. And the second question is wearable technologies. Could you see them also being used in the daily operation for service technology, service technicians, for operators to be more flexible?
Yeah. Well, first thing is, my expertise is not in our sortation centres, but I would say to you, yes, absolutely. We have fantastic data that would allow us to use machine learning to essentially know how we can actually manage those more efficiently. I have to say they're pretty efficient already, but I can't see reasons why that wouldn't work. Can I just have your second question again?
The second question was about the wearables using by technicians and operators in the centers.
Yeah, so a great example for us at the moment in Holland, where we're working with Rico and we have vision picking. And we've got some fantastic results already showing how vision picking is changing the way that we run our operations. So I think wearables are already showing great results in that case. The problem has been the miniaturization of everything, because they've all been quite clunky and heavy. And I can see, more and more we work with technology companies, we see the product is getting far better, lighter and easier for users to use.
Oh, hold on, there's another question over here.
Hi, Paul. I'm just really intrigued by some of the innovation in terms of the new propositions that you're taking to market. And I guess some of it was opportunity-led, but I'm sure a lot of it was you creating new markets. What was the innovative process that you went through? I guess it's slightly ahead of Simon's question around the funding. So how did you generate that level of innovation and pace into your organisation within the Special Services division?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, great question. One thing, we've become great listeners. And one of the things that we like doing is going talking to new companies that we want to work for and go and listen deeply about what are their problems, what are their challenges, how they want to change their market, and really understand effectively the break points that they're trying to grapple with. And I won't name the customer, but a good one for me was one of our airlines where we were providing a pretty reasonable service in logistics and supply chain. And I went and sat with the board and said, I want to know how you feel about DHL and the services we provide. And their view was, well, you provide a great service, Paul, but you're not worrying about the things I worry about. And I said, well, I don't understand that. And I said, well, we're worrying about our passenger. How does our passenger feel about the service that they engage every day? You're not worrying about that because you're this bit in the middle. And that's when we set about transforming the ownership of what we do to say, actually, we need to own the menu. We need to own the design of the food, the quality of the food that actually gets served to the passenger, because effectively it needs to be a seamless process end to end. So that for me was a great example how we took that particular account and we trebled the revenue, literally trebled the revenue because of the reach of what we now do for that customer. So for me, it's about us being good listeners and really understanding the problems and the challenges that the companies that we want to work with are facing. And that, in every case, has been pretty much how we've been able to deliver the transformation.
We got any more questions?
Great.
Oh, there's one over there.
What is your strategy for driverless technology?
What is our strategy for driving this technology?
Yes.
Okay, so the one thing that we want to do is we want to be open to market. So for example, my offices and my team are based central London, and we're in one of the WeWork environments where we are amongst all the little startups. And it allows us to really stay close to innovation, entrepreneurialism, stuff that's going on where we've got scale in our organisation to make a difference. And quite often we see that they come to us with great ideas, and we're a great test bed for them to take their product and their service. But equally on the other extreme, we need big companies like Fujitsu who give us global infrastructure, give us the robustness we need, that once we find something that really can transform, that we can deploy it quickly and we can deploy it globally. So for me, it's about staying close with small startups, staying close with SMEs, but working with the world's biggest technology companies to make sure that we can make what we do robust and scalable.
Brilliant. Okay, I think that probably concludes the question and answer session. So thank you very much for your presentation today. Please, can you put your hands together?
Thank you very much.